Those licenses will come in handy on this safari. But now Rogers and Mayo Alderi's senior professional hunter Ryan Guav Johnson, along with his trackers, have only one animal in mind, a trophy northwestern buffalo. That is the license Rogers most wants to fill out in Cameroon.
So, a lot of the time we'd find tracks, follow them, and they'd go into a reed bed or the very, very long grass, it's almost impossible to track them in. The grass is just so tall, you just can't get on them.
It's the dry season, but the brush and grass are still tall and thick. The annual burning of the land to open up the country for grazing has just begun, so spotting game is next to impossible. That makes the skill of the trackers especially valuable in trailing buffalo.
Well, we found the tracks. One lone Savanna buffalo that we've been tracking for 4 hours. And here are his tracks leading into the national forest. Either he's really lucky, or he knows that there's a safe haven in there, and obviously we're not going in there. So
these trackers here in Africa, they can follow these tracks like I never imagined. You hear about it all the time. The fantastic trackers of Africa, from Botswana and the Kalahari, the Bushmen, all the way up into places like this, into Cameroon. But when you watch them do it over hard dirt, where there's just nothing that leaves an indentation other than maybe a little bit of ash, a blade of grass, and sometimes it's just moving forward, knowing where the buffalo would go, they pick up these tracks and follow them for miles. I can pick them up sometimes, like this when I get them in the deep sand, but they can follow them all day long. And that's what makes hunting in Cameroon so amazing. It's tracking these trophies, not just spotting and stalking.
like so many of the species of Africa, the western cob is a species of opportunity. He's where you'll find him. And a lot of times when you're traveling, driving across Africa, going from one spot to the next, you're going to find herds of cob. The trick is to find a real trophy, an old male. And that's where the professional hunter comes in. At first glance, having never seen a cob before in my life, I noticed that they tended to look a lot like impala. Same kinds of ridges, same kinds of horn configuration. But I had no idea what a trophy cob would look like. What is an old one? How big do they get? This is where, for many hunters, the SCI Record Book of Trophy Animals becomes so valuable. Because having never seen one before, you can look in that book and you can say, what constitutes a trophy mature western cob in this part of the world at this point in time? And I did that, and I found that anything above 17, 18 inches in length is usually a very good western cob. So Guav really was on the lookout for a really good old mature male, and that's what he found. Oh yeah, cob. He got to that distance where they start to feel a little more comfortable, probably about 150 yards. Ah, I see, perfect. Guav said, that's the one we want. That's the one, take him. Okay. Watch him.
Oh, you hit him, man.
Thank you. Nice, let's go check him out. We've done well? It sure looks like it.
Very nice.
Ah, yeah. This is what we're looking for.
Beautiful.
Now, the ones that I've seen, you have some in camp.
Yeah.
They don't look like they have quite these bases.
No, this is a really old one. He was all on his own.
Huh?
Yeah, he's got huge bases, and you can see how that thickness actually carries all the way along, eh? An old male, eh?
How about his length?
Good
Some
length.
good solid length?
Very nice bases and nice and wide as well, eh?
It's when you get close to an animal that you really find an appreciation for him, for what he is and his coloring and the hair. You get to put your hands on him and feel what is it that's unique about the western cob. In this case, his horns were a little over 20 inches in length. He's a very old ram, and this is exactly what I wanted. Something that really represented the species, but also was an older ram. The northwestern buffalo, a little bit different than the Cape buffalo. He still has bosses, but he doesn't drop down and hook up. He kind of flattens out, much like an Australian water buffalo. Typically, they go out just about to where the ears are, maybe a little less, and then hook back.
So, you ever read that book, Death in the Long Grass?
Yeah, it's cool.
This is what they're talking about, isn't it? Yeah. I can see that.
This particular buffalo, I'm told, can be incredibly aggressive, especially a lone bull by himself. So I was excited about hunting this. Anytime you get a chance to hunt dangerous game, it's exciting. You're in the long grass, you're hunting animals that can attack, that when wounded are extremely dangerous.
One of the aspects of hunting these western buffalo is just following them where they go. And quite often what will happen at night, they'll come down from wherever they've been feeding in the burnt areas and go into these large river valleys, which are covered in grass. We call it elephant grass. That's like up to 10, 12 foot tall. And there's little tunnels that go right inside there. And you know, they come out again normally in the early morning to go and feed in the burnt areas. So you just got to follow them through there. And you can crawl on your hands and knees for like 400 or 500 meters. And hopefully they will come out the other side and the going gets a little bit easier.
One of the trackers looked down, and just to our right, through the brush, through some deep grass and in through the trees, was a lone buffalo bull.
I see him.
When I heard buffalo, I got immediately excited, turned to face it. We moved into position quickly. We immediately got to a spot where I found a nice little tree that had a V in it. I set the rifle into the V and waited. While I waited looking for this buffalo, I expected to see him at 50, 60 yards. Bob and I had talked ahead of time, and we talked about how nice it would be to get close to the buffalo. Sure enough, this buffalo was 120 yards away, maybe 130. He's facing to the right side a little bit, but I don't have a shot. I just cannot see his shoulder. I can see a horn barely. Okay, now he's turning to the left. He's facing left, right?
Yeah, but I shoot him slightly forward on the shoulder.
Okay, but his horn is covering his vitals. He was out there, but he was down in a position where there was no way we could get closer to him without spooking him. So Guav said, hey, if you can take the shot, take the shot. I've got some brush that I need to shoot through, so I want to wait until he just moves left. I started thinking about it. Okay, I got a slightly downhill shot, about 120 yards. At a buffalo. It was a pretty big kill zone. Yet he's quartered towards me a little bit, and he's slightly blocked by some brush. In fact, as I looked at it, I could see even some trees halfway between he and I that I had to shoot through. So I waited, and I watched the buffalo. And eventually, he moved just enough to where I could see that I could get that quartering shot kind of on the side and penetrate down through the vitals. There. Okay. That's his shot.
Oh, wait, okay. Yeah, you hit him good, Mike?
That felt good.
His tail went straight up, eh?
It looked good?
Yeah, it's good, eh?
Yeah, listen. You like that?
He's bellowing, eh?
And then the best sound of all, the death bellow of the northwestern buffalo. Sounds a lot like the Cape buffalo, but I heard him bellow out, and then another.
Yeah.
That's a good sound. There he goes again. You hear that? We waited. We walked down quietly, making our way through the thick brush, out into a little bit of an open area. I stood up on a little mound with Guav for a minute, and we just wanted to sight it, take a quick look around, make sure that we didn't miss something. You never know, sometimes a buffalo could run off and circle around. I don't think he's a wounded buffalo, but he's not on the ground yet, at least that we know for sure. So we have to act like he is, right?
You know, I don't want to over dramatize it, but I don't care who you are. If you're hunting buffalo and you've got a buffalo down, you think you better be ready for him getting up. Oh yeah, yeah.
So we wanted to really be sure. We picked up his track. We eventually followed. Sure enough, the buffalo was down.
Yes. Yes!
Well done, Mike.
Done.
Finished.
Exceptional, Mike. I would bet that that'll be the biggest one taken this year.
Really?
For the rest of the season. Oh yeah.
Ah.
You don't shoot many like this, eh?
He was incredibly wide, almost 34 inches wide. We looked into the record book and noticed that he would be almost in the top 10 of all northwestern buffalo of all time. It's just icing on the cake for me. It was a great hunt. It was an experience on dangerous game. I made a good shot, which always feels good to any hunter. When I looked at him, he almost looked like an Australian water buffalo. He had the big long horns almost covering his vitals. Of course, he was quartered, and that's all I had was that quartering shot.